Hello and welcome to this edition of Full Circle, brought to you by South Central Louisiana Human Services Authority. I'm your host, Keith Weisheit, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you for joining us, and always glad to see my friend and colleague, Rebecca Davis here. Rebecca, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you, Keith.
I appreciate it. So, a lot of good work, of course, social service counselor and program monitor over at South Central. And one of the things that we see a lot of is these gambling issues. And I know it's a good time to talk about this.
Yes, absolutely. So March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. The reason that the National Council chose March is because of March Madness.
Okay.
Yes, so there's a lot of gambling that goes on during that month. And prior to sports betting being legal, it was probably the most gambling in any one month that was happening.
Oh, okay.
So we like to get out in the community prior to March and just again during March try to increase awareness of how serious the problem is with gambling. So don't gamble with your future is kind of what we're going to talk about at first. And we're going to talk a little bit about what is problem gambling.
Okay.
So problem gambling is any type of gambling where you're having negative consequences in your life.
Okay.
That could be, a lot of people think it's just related to money. It's not just about money. It could be time away from family. It could obviously be finances. It could be neglect of children, leaving children alone, domestic violence, those kinds of things. So it's a lot of things it could affect.
Right. Different functional things. When it affects your ability to function or run your household, that's when we realize that that becomes a problem.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So just a few stats. 15% of Americans gamble at least once per week.
Oh, wow.
Yes. 6 million adults and 500,000 teens meet the criteria for problem gambling. 40% of people with a gambling problem started gambling before they were 17 years old. 6% of suicides are related to problem gambling. The suicide rate with problem gamblers is higher than any other addiction.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess that's got a lot to do with the fact that it's such a negative impact on your life financially. You put yourself, or you can create so many financial difficulties.
Absolutely. And it's known as the hidden addiction. So it can go on for so much longer than maybe some of the other addictions. I mean, you can usually look at someone and kind of know if they've got an alcohol or a drug problem, but you can't just look at a person and know they're a problem gambler. So it usually goes on for a much longer time before they hit bottom and decide to get help.
Yeah, and so many of them starting young and then continuing into young adulthood and those kinds of
Absolutely.
things. All right. Let's talk about some signs.
Some signs are lying, being dishonest, about where you're at, where the money's gone, if someone's checking account and there's missing money. Chasing your losses, which is never gets anyone up, because as a problem gambler will always do that. They will always go back and with more money and try to win back the money they lost, and all it does is create more problems.
Sure.
Borrowing money, always betting more. Payday loans is a huge place that people go that have a gambling problem. And it creates another issue because they never get out of it.
Nope.
Yeah. Being obsessed with gambling, so that's all you kind of think about. You're thinking about when you're going to gamble, where you're going to get the money to gamble, how you're going to sneak to go gamble. Gambling out of need, then more than just a fun activity. You feel you need to go gamble. Gambling to forget, to escape, stealing or committing fraud to gamble, and gambling because it's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah. And again, some really important things. And when you kind of see those things kind of creep up for people, you realize that it's probably going on for some time.
Absolutely.
Like you meant, the hidden
addiction.
The hidden addiction. And so you bring to mind so many different things for me about seeing that and addressing that with people. But there's a tremendous cost to gambling.
Absolutely.
That goes way beyond what the normal cost value is with people in issues, huh? Let's talk about that one, Aaron.
Absolutely. So the cost can be, besides detrimental to relationships, there can be a lot of legal issues that go along with problem gambling. So theft, embezzlement, fraud, domestic violence, failing to pay child support, writing worthless checks, shoplifting, fencing stolen goods, tax evasion, tax fraud, and check forgery. So those are a lot of the legal issues that could happen in relation to problem gambling.
Okay.
4 to 5% of the population in Louisiana meet criteria for problem gamblers. Now, nationwide, it's only 2 to 3%. So it's higher in Louisiana.
Almost doubled.
And that is in relation to video poker.
Okay.
Yeah. In Louisiana, you can find a place to gamble within 40 miles of where you live, anywhere in the state. And it's mostly because of the truck stops.
Yeah.
So it's a huge issue. Annual cost associated with gambling is $17 billion a year. And that would be crime, addiction, bankruptcy, those kinds of things.
Wow.
17 billion.
$17 billion.
Right. So the average cost to house an inmate is approximately $34,000 to $40,000 a year. Of incarcerated offenders, 10 to 30% are problem gamblers, and 13% are in prison as a result of their gambling debt. So it's a huge expense for the community. And it still baffles me today, because I've worked in this field for many years, that there's so many people that don't know that they can get free treatment for problem gambling in the state of Louisiana.
And y'all provide that right there at South Central Louisiana
Absolutely.
Human Services Authority.
We cover, South Central covers a 7-parish area.
Right.
We have 4 different clinics, and every one of the clinics provide gambling services.
Yeah, and y'all have such a network of individual and group work, and just really the support that's needed to kind of figure out, all right, how do I turn this around?
Absolutely. Right? And we work with families of problem gamblers, because that's very, very important, is to try to educate the family and to be support for the family.
Right.
Because lots of times the person with the problem is being treated, but the family's left alone to suffer by themselves. So we work with families also.
Wow. So it's great to get them on the periphery, because they're being affected and impacted as well.
Absolutely.
Rebecca, some great information. Thank you so much for this. And let people know that they can get help. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. Just reach out to South Central and we'll get you what you need.
Awesome. All right, guys, that'll do it for this edition of Full Circle. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.